This is too good. So we're I'll count us into the show. Scott will kind of do the introduction and then we'll be boogieing right then. So counting into the audio portion in 3, 2, 1. We're rolling.
All right, welcome to episode 136 of the Narcissistic Music Disorder.
Scotty, today is a special day for us, is it not?
It is.
It's so rare that, I mean, not super rare, but we don't have a ton of guests. I think some of it is, nobody wants to nerd out for an hour with the likes of us and our nerdery. But
hey, I do.
But Ricky Dover Jr. does, man.
Yes.
So welcome to the show, man. I'm gonna try. We're gonna try our hardest not to blow a whole bunch of sunshine up your ass, but that's probably gonna happen. We'll try to not make you uncomfortable because we're both fans.
Oh, dude, you guys are cool. Thank you.
And we were talking kind of before we started the audio portion, looking at the video. We're talking about this Burrito Brothers album that folks listening won't see, but we can see. Is that the one? I can't tell from here. Is that the one with the 2 girls on it?
Oh,
on
yeah.
The cover?
Yeah, this is the first record. And not Emmylou Harris.
Yeah.
But,
so my question
like their
is, who are those chicks?
At the time or something. And
I was gonna say, who are those chicks? Anybody know?
Yeah, I think they do. I have seen them look it up. They're not credited.
Okay.
But yeah, I think someone has Googled it and figured it out. And I do know that this suit that Chris Eldridge is wearing was lost back in the day, and it turns out Elton John had it. And
really?
And had it for a number of years, and he did several photo shoots and even an album cover or something with this particular
with that suit.
Literally the exact same suit that the drummer for the Burrito Brothers is wearing. He thought he lost it. Turns out Elton John had it.
No, okay. Well, that happens all the time. I mean, that happens. It's a common problem. The other thing about that Burritos album, and that's the other thing I forgot to tell you before we get started. Yeah. Scott and I are apt to take several side streets, so you're not married to anything. We might talk about this Burrito Brothers album cover for the next 20 minutes. We'll try not to. But the other thing about that is the nudie suits, right? How I mean, those are the bomb. And they're all kind of themed a little bit, right? I forget is it Hillman who's got the big bird on his, maybe? I don't remember.
Yeah.
It might be Sneaky Pete that's got
Sneaky Pete is got like the pterodactyl.
Yeah, the pterodactyl, right. And I thought I heard, this could be folklore too, but like I heard some of those suits, the stuff on the suits were inspired by like a Joshua Tree trip. They were all taking acid and hanging out, which is kind of the thing to do. And of course, everybody's favorite, my favorite, Grams with the weed and the pills. And God, man, that's
so cool.
God, so cool.
Bolero cut. It's kind of high. It's awesome.
So cool, man. So cool. I can see them right now. There's like I don't think it's live. I think it's like a TV thing. And you guys have probably seen it too, where they're doing, it's not Hot Burrito. God, I can see him at the mic with Hillman and they're in the suits and Graham's got the hat on.
Tune
yes, it's Christine's tune.
This guy's
killer, man.
Yeah,
killer.
That one's so cool.
So our setup today, and we should also, I should share. Ricky, you came on my radar with Tuk Smith and the Restless Hearts.
Great.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was kind of where, and I was thinking before we started, I don't know where I heard about Tuk Smith. Like, I don't know if it was maybe the stadium thing, remember? Because it was COVID, right? If I'm not mistaken in the lore of this whole thing, like Tuck was scheduled to open that stadium tour.
Yes.
And then COVID hit, right?
Yeah, we were announced and everything, and it was happening, but it was the type of deal, I can be honest and get in the weeds about it. And
please.
If we get in trouble, bring it on. That's just success. If we get in trouble, give it a lawsuit.
Hey, we could use the controvery, dude. So anything you got, spit it right now.
But it was the type of deal where, so it would be first out of the 5 bands. So it would have been Tuck, Joan Jett, Poison, Def Leppard, Motley Crue. But we were not advertised anywhere, not on any tickets, and we could only have merch, I think, at maybe like 1 location. And it'd be like first in, last out. You know, we were just going to be in a van. You know, dudes are flying private, and so we'd be like chasing that. And so it was also tied to his album release. He and I did a record in late 2018, and 2019 we're putting a band together. You know, that's when the Dirt, the Motley Crue movie came out. You know, because of course, you know, Crue's like, we're gonna break up, and you know, we're gonna sign this thing, and that we're never gonna get back together. And like, oh wait, now our streaming is like 500%, you know, up from what it was before the movie. Everyone's talking about this. Guess what? Reunion tour. Cha-ching.
Right.
And of course, like, we didn't see that one coming. And so then, yeah, but then we had this record ready to go. Tuck was signed to Motley's management and label at the time.
Wow.
And so they were saying like, all right, well, your album's gonna come out when the tour happens. So then when the tour got postponed, the album got postponed.
Oh, they shelved the album.
And then with COVID, there was like, you know, it was such an ambiguous time. No one really knew when it was going to end, and if anything was going to happen, if anything was going to be the same ever again. So he kind of felt he didn't want to wait that long. So, and we can write more songs. We can make even better recordings. We can we can do even more. So, so we ended up, the record got shelved, and so we ended up kind of coming out with some new material. And but when the record got shelved, he did have to, because we basically owed a ton of money to them because they advanced.
It's a buy on tour, right? You would have to buy on to a tour like that, or your
we didn't
label
have to buy on because we were under the same management branch and the same label. But I mean, their pay was something very small. We didn't have like no dressing room, maybe no sound check. It's like literally like at doors you play. And so so I mean, and then of course it's like, well, how dare you criticize this amazing opportunity that we're giving you? There's tons of bands willing to buy on 6 figures, no problem, just for the opportunity. And so, and I don't blame anybody for doing that. And so but we were in that, we already owed a ton of money. So so it kind of ended up working out like, well, we can get out of all this debt, just record more tunes, man. So and so he felt it was best to kind of walk away from that. And so then kind of putting out other material on his own, and his management started up a label and such. And so
cool.
And then so 3 songs from that album that got shelved did make it out. And I do have a vinyl test pressing of the record. It's only one, man.
Would that be?
I got it. So if you want to come over, we can listen to it.
Okay, I'm on my way.
I'm on my way. Or anything.
Is that, would those 3 songs be? Was it Looking for Love?
Yeah.
Same Old You.
Same Old You, and What Kind of Love?
And What Kind of? Those were. First of all, they're fantastic songs. Second of all, I feel like that my first exposure was probably Looking for Love, like maybe the video. And I feel like maybe I heard something about the stadium tour thing. I mean, I'm an old hair metal dude, so of course that stadium tour, it didn't appeal to me enough to buy a ticket, but it was, enough to grab my interest. And I think that's maybe where I heard about it. I don't remember. But
so we ended up the band Classless Act ended up having that opportunity. Excuse my ignorance, they might not even be a band anymore.
I don't know.
And because it was type of opportunity where it's like, hey, how dare you criticize this? But like, this will break you. This will break your band up. If it's like kind of one of those tours, it's the touring in a van and everyone else is like in a bus, where it's like, it is so hard.
That would be brutal.
Lower level touring.
Brutal.
Yeah.
I mean, just the thought right now at my age of a van. I mean, to be honest with you, those, and I mean, back in the day, we were probably nobody when you're taking every opportunity, you're not like the best at routing either, right? Like,
Sure, yeah.
you know, hey, you're in Chicago tonight and Nashville tomorrow and then St. Louis and then Detroit.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever, right? Wherever you can get. But at my age now, like 14 hours in a van, I don't know if I'd get out of the van. I don't know how they get me out, right? You know, sleep on somebody's floor. But now you've moved on. You're with Grace Potter, right?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
And how's that gig?
It's great, man. Grace is so much fun, and she's always keeping us on our toes, and she's got a wealth of material. I mean, she's got 8 albums, and then plus another 2 that she released independently. She's got 10 albums worth of material. She technically has 4 with her band, the Nocturnals.
Yeah.
And then kind of another, oh yeah, I guess another 4. For maybe like 7, sorry. Of solo material as well. And so she loves we do these VIP sound checks where people will call out songs from all over her catalog.
What's that like for you? How do you prepare for that? I mean, you can't know her whole catalog, right? Or do you have a rough idea of her catalog? Yeah.
I got a Dropbox on my phone of just like, you know, over this, it's been a little over a year and a half for me now. And so, I just slowly have created a Dropbox link with just charts for everything and just enough of a rough like idea and like lyric and like, the lyric kind of like goes like this, the riff's sort of like this and like that. And just enough to be able to get through it, you know, if it's just a rough sound check. But she's like so fun and just
she seems super cool,
aware of others and everyone's contributions. And is like, you know, has no ego, and she's just like one of the dudes, man.
And she's rock and roll. There's no
she's
doubt.
rock and roll. Right. She'll be the first to be like, I'll pull my finger, and then it's like, oh
yeah, right,
dude, we're doing our band huddle, and then like, oh great. But she's rock and roll as hell, man.
Yeah,
she's more rock and roll than I am. I mean, she's her energy and just like her excitement of life and just how she can sing. I mean, she can do all the Mariah Carey like whistle tones, like no problem.
Ooh, cool.
And then she's got this cool like raspy sort of like Christine McVie, Tina Turner, like Rod Stewart's kind of sounding thing, and then plays a flying V, and then
right,
Hammond organ, and
God dang,
fun, man. So I feel so grateful for the opportunity, and she and I take a lot of moments during the show, and because I get to play lead guitar at pretty much the majority of the tunes, and so she and I will be battling it out, and we'll like lock knees and do back bends, and we even do kind of a call and response thing of like, you know, she'll sing something and I'll try to play it back. And
cool, man.
So I'm just like so grateful for the opportunity.
That's a dream gig, man. I bet that's fun.
And she's so fun, and she's got a great team and good management, and and then so our next gig is at the end of this month. We'll be playing with an orchestra, the Vermont Symphony Orchestra. We've got 2 shows, one in Burlington, another in Rutland in Vermont. With a full symphony orchestra. So, but what's really cool about that is back in, I think 2008, 2009, I may be wrong, she did a full record with T-Bone Burnett.
Legend.
And kind of like what happened with Tuk, that album got shelved and has not been released at all. So I think when we do play with the symphony, we're playing 2 songs from that T-Bone record that have been completely unreleased and are absolutely incredible. I mean, just like chilling. And you know, it's kind of got that T-Bone, you know, style arrangement, like
texture,
tremolo guitars and everything. But it's just a masterclass. And looking forward to our orchestra shows. And I feel so lucky. She lets me take a lot of moments with her, and so she's just so much fun. She just loves having fun, and if we screw up, it's not a big deal. And there's accountability and everything.
Sure.
But yeah, man, it's just,
well, she's lucky to have you, man.
Dude, thank you.
I tell people, and I hope this isn't, I'm sure it's not insulting, but you know, you're playing your tone stylistically, the way you make music, you know, it definitely, to me, I can draw back to Jimmy Page and Ronnie Wood and you know, which is cool, which is, and I think kind of Grace has that connection to great, the depth of great music. And so I'm sure that's a perfect fit. And that leads us into this, right, Scott? We're going to start discussing. Scott, what's our format? Because this is, I think, the first time we've done this format.
Cool.
This is, okay, so we'll do 5 albums with Ricky Dover Jr., and you can do a rock album, a country album, a pop or power pop, a rock, an R&B or a hip hop record, and then a wild card or NMD record, as we call them here.
Yeah.
The NMD
that,
record
might be obscure, or
the NMD record is the one that you mention, and then you're pissed off that everyone doesn't have it, although it was only available as an import from Finland or something. And you're like, how can you not have that? How do you not have that record?
It's very listening, man.
Exactly. It's very high fidelity around here, dude.
Awesome.
So I have mine in order: just rock, pop, country, R&B, rap, and then my NMD pick. So let's let our guests lead us off.
Yeah.
Ricky, what's your essentials, a rock album you got to have?
Yeah, thank you. Well, gosh. So, I was I would have to go with this Super Drag album. Yeah, Head Trip in Every Key. It's their second album. They're power pop, so I thought, like, oh, maybe they'll fit into a pop category, but man, so I'm from Knoxville in East Tennessee, and Super Drag is also from Knoxville. So they were just my hometown heroes. And gosh, I was like 17, and I went to one of their shows and stayed out late and got grounded for 2 weeks, and greatest show of my life.
Worth it.
Totally worth it, man. And totally just changed I was just so hooked and everything. And so this is their second record, and it's kind of like their big production record with strings and full orchestration and arrangement. And it was actually produced by this guy Jerry Finn, which also it's talking about Tuk Smith. Jerry Finn, who produced his Super Drag record, the guy that produced Tuk's record, Rob Cavallo, Jerry Finn was his assistant. Jerry also worked with Rob Cavallo and Jerry Finn worked with Green Day, and then Jerry went off to work with Blink-182 and tons of other bands. And Jerry worked on this second Super Drag record, and it's killer, man. It sounds just amazing, and full production. And then for the record, for the country, I had to go Graham Parsons, Flying Burrito Brothers. This is the first record. Gilded Palace of Sin. Man, they just help define. I don't think there's anything that's an exact first, but they helped just define this, country rock genre.
It's got to be close.
Yeah,
I mean, that record's got to be close.
Yeah,
don't you think, Scott, that the Burrito Brothers are kind of that? I mean, blueprint of what is country rock. I mean, in a way.
Yeah, it's that first, one of the first, like what they call cosmic country records.
Oh yeah. Or even to me, and what we'll do, I think what we'll do is let's go around on each pick. Like,
okay, yeah.
You know what? Because I don't want to lose, and we're gonna take side roads like this. But back to the Burrito Brothers. Yeah. For me, I at my age, I'm 52. I wasn't listening to Gilded Palace of Sin when it came out, obviously.
Yeah.
But I kind of got into this alt country thing, and after I kind of had left my hair metal phase there, and then I somehow fell into this alt country thing. My dad was a country musician; he was a bass player, and so when I heard, it seemed like every one of those bands, from Uncle Tupelo, Jason and the Scorchers, all the stuff I loved, everybody talked about Graham Parsons. Everybody. And I'm like, God, what's this cat about, right? And then when I got to Graham Parsons through that Grievous Angel GP, right? The CD with both those records on it. I was as sold as I could be. And I liked Graham for this reason too. And this is probably not going to be a great thing to say. I don't believe Graham Parsons he's certainly not George Jones. He's not a fantastic singer. You know what I mean? He's not the dude you're going to, he's an interpreter of songs I like by other writers for sure, but he's not that, traditional, beautiful voice, but his voice really hooked me. And I had heard like Keith Richards talk about Graham singing like at these clubs in California. And, Keith said it. He was like, Graham would stop the room. He's like these hardened waitresses and biker chicks. And, Graham would sing and everyone would stop. The whole place would stop and listen to him because, and he's, Keith has told the story like Graham, all these women seem to want to mother Graham Parsons. He was that guy, and I could hear that in the music. I can hear it in his voice, the way he sings Hot Burrito. It just, my favorite Graham tune is She. And in 96, I went to the Horde tour, which was a big tour back then, the Blues Traveler, Hippie Jam tour. The B stage was Wilco was on the B stage. They were just touring that first record of theirs. And they got up with the Crows, with the Black Crows. And I was so not hip yet that they said they were going to play She. I had met Wilco, and Jay Bennett goes, hey, tonight we're playing with the Black Crows on the big stage. We're playing She. I thought they were going to play She by Kiss, the Kiss song. She walks by moon. I'm like, damn, that's a weird pick. And they played the Graham Parsons tune that I hadn't known yet. So yeah, I'm a huge Graham fan.
That's great. Yeah, I think Graham is just a good collaborator as well. Obviously with his time with the Byrds and Roger McGuinn, and then kind of doing the Burrito Brothers with Chris Hillman, who was just like vastly overlooked, and then solo with Emmylou. So I'm thinking he was, yes, he was great on his own, but he really kind of helped bring out the best in others, and they brought out the best in him.
Well, he changed the Byrds. I mean, for sure. And he changed the Stones. I don't think people appreciate that enough. I think Graham Parsons changed Rolling Stones. I think Graham Parsons changed Keith Richards so much, and Keith Richards is the force in the Stones. I think he changed the Stones. I think there was the pre-Graham Stones and there was the post-Graham Stones, and I think Graham Parsons changed the band. I really do. I think Keith Richards would admit he changed him. It was Graham who hipped him to Haggard, and you can still see videos where Keith will pick up an acoustic and play "Sing Me Back Home."
Yeah,
it's just really cool. What's your rock record, Scott?
John Sykes, "Bad Boy Live."
Just passed away. What a great guitar player.
It was recorded. I think it was done. It was released in 2010. It was recorded in Japan. He does a bunch of the White Snake stuff. He does Thin Lizzy. He does his own stuff. It's killer record. It sounds awesome.
He was a great player, man. He was underrated.
So underrated. Yeah. He was incredible in Thin Lizzy and the Tigers of Pantang. He's like,
Tigers of Pantang, Blue Murder.
Please talk about that.
Yeah. I mean, the thing about Sykes too is the 87 White Snake record, the big record, is Sykes. And I mean, those are a lot of those hit songs He's Still of the Night, right? That's Sykes' tune. The record before that, Slide It In.
Yes.
I thought that was a great record. It was big in my high school, and but he had a tone that wasn't like guitar wise. It wasn't, a lot of those 80s tones were really washed out, because everything had chorus and verb on it, everything. Right. So there was like no attack to anything. And then you heard, John Sykes had a beefy, he kind of brought his Thin Lizzy tone over, you know what I mean? He brought that beefy.
The Thunder and Lightning is incredible, and he would just be able to create parts and really memorable melodies, but also have just the muscular finesse to really just go for it and elevate and rise it. From Gary Moore, and then obviously, Brian Roberts, and then Gary Moore, and then Snowy White, and then to elevate that even further,
right?
It's like, oh my gosh, that is a huge, tall order. But just being this like beautiful guy with this like crazy blonde hair and these
perfect,
and he just like plays amazing and just like
perfect.
Oh gosh, why
kick-ass black Les Paul.
Kind of thought maybe something was happening with his health a couple of years ago, because I know Eddie Trunk was and has always been a really big fan, and he was trying to get him back to come back into music. And once I kind of heard that Eddie Trunk was like really trying to champion John Sykes of like, come back, like, dude, we need you. You're so amazing. And then, yeah, and then I didn't know what was going on. And then when he passed, I was like, oh man,
yeah, he was a good one.
He was so good, dude.
Good pick, Scott. Well,
Yeah.
I'm going to stay, and my rock record is going to kind of stay somewhat in that genre. And this is for me is a seminal record. It's one of them, probably the most important records in my collection. And I came into it in the 80s a little bit late, to be honest with you, but I'm a huge fan. I have Hanoi Rocks, Two Steps from the Move.
Oh God.
Yeah. I mean, you say what you will, say that record to me and Hanoi Rocks. I mean, don't forget, they were operating in like late 70s, early 80s, man. This is pre first Motley Crue record. This is pre all that stuff. And they had what I am attracted to, and like I guess I guess I'll call Hanoi Rocks hair metal. I mean, they were more glitter rock than hair metal, right?
Yes.
I mean,
yeah.
It's, you know, I don't call Bowie, you know, glam metal either, you know, or Slade or anything like that. Hanoi had that. They came from that old school rock and roll generation where they grew up on 50s and 60s rock and roll. You know, I mean, Michael Monroe, I don't know how old he is now, but he would be one of those kind of what I would call a first wave rock and roll guy, you know, kind of got that first, second wave.
Saxophone and
exactly. And Two Steps from the Move is just, for me, when I heard those songs, I was floored. And again, not a tradition. I don't think Michael Monroe is, anyone would accuse him of being a I don't know, even a David Coverdale or one of these big singer types.
Yeah, David Lee Roth.
He's just, but he's still, first of all, he's still playing. His band is always great. He's always got these killer guitar players who have great tone. And the other thing about him, and I know I take a lot of heat for this because it really seems surface, but that motherfucker always looked cool. Always. Oh, absolutely. He's an old, I mean, I'm an old man, and that fucker got 20 years on me, and he's still cool looking. He's out there just cool as shit. So yeah, Hanoi Rocks, Two Steps from the Move is a big one for me. Ricky, what's your pop record? What do you got for a pop record?
Well, yeah, pop was a little difficult for me.
Was the Super Drag one kind of?
Yeah, so I had to go back to 60s pop. So I had to choose Herman's Hermits.
Oh man.
Yeah, my story with Herman's Hermits is the singer Peter Noon, I played some shows with his daughter maybe about 10 years ago.
Wow.
And previous to that, all I knew of Herman's Hermits was just in Naked Gun. And just thought like, oh geez, how cheesy and hilarious is that scene? But really once we did some shows opening for her dad, Peter Noon, and then being exposed to his larger catalog, and then learning a little bit more about his story, and Jimmy Page played on a lot of sessions for him, and Mick Jagger and the guys in Eric Burden and Graham Nash and Mickey Most. So he was just so really well connected. So it's definitely something that I initially just thought like, oh, this is just some teeny bopper kind of bubblegum stuff, but really there's a ton of depth in it, and kind of oh gosh, I can't remember his name, but a guy that wrote for the Hollies a lot. He wrote like Bus Stop and things. Also wrote for Herman's Hermits, and so yeah, I just always kind of thought of them as more just a surface level teeny bopper thing, because I think in the 60s Herman's Hermits sold more records than the Beatles did.
I've heard that. I think that's true.
More popular at the time, which is really crazy. But man, there actually is a lot of depth in their records, and I would definitely recommend anyone to check it out and give them a kind of a deeper dive.
I was gonna say they're another, like, there's a host of groups that people can sleep on, you know, like you just forget. Like for me, my big revelation came when I realized that there was Bee Gees songs before disco Bee Gees.
Yeah.
You know, back to 4-piece time, and listening to that blew my mind. I mean, I thought, holy crap, like this is amazing stuff. And I'm such a Beatle guy. As a matter of fact, I told my son today, my 17-year-old son, the Beatles, I go, well, the Beatles are my number one band. Everybody knows that. And he didn't. He did not. And he also confessed, he's like, I'm not really a Beatle guy. So anyhow, I guess he'll find somewhere to sleep tonight, I'm sure. But those bands are, because they were so, it was at that time, I think it was pretty image driven. You know what I mean? It was the suits and the, everybody on the, I can see the, Ready, Set, Go stage or any of those, multi-level
and
things.
They compete with the Beatles' new release.
Right.
What a tall order that is. Like, oh, there's going to be a new Beatle record. Like, well, what are you working on? It's like,
yeah.
Oh, geez, how do I deal with that?
I can't imagine. What's your pop pick, Scott?
It is the new record, the newest record from the Kooks. It's called,
I love the Kooks.
It's called 10 Tracks to Echo in the Dark. They're from England.
You haven't pitched them on the show a lot.
Yeah, this record I think came out in 2021 or 2022, but it sounds like they locked themselves in a room with the Duran Duran catalog because it's so different from any Kooks record before. I like it, but it's different from any of their other records, and it's got that John Taylor kind of slappy bass and funky bass, and it's super cool. It's like the Killers and Duran Duran and the Kooks all mixed together. It's
sucks.
Super sweet.
This happens on this show entirely too much. And for the record, Scott, you and I kind of met for the show. I mean, really, we had never hung out before. We met at one of my gigs. We talked, and then it seemed like shortly thereafter we were doing this show together. Does that feel about right? But this happens a lot. My pop pick is Duran Duran Rio.
Oh, nice. Yes.
And the only reason is, I mean, and I love pop music. I kicked a bunch of albums around. I mean, and that was everything from, Thriller to Huey Lewis and the News Sports. I mean, I think those are all great pop records. I really do. But Rio hit me because, again, like you said, no one ever talks about those guys as instrumentalists. Yet John Taylor is one of the best bass players I've ever heard. I mean, he has great parts. He's busy and funky. Like, I don't know I don't know enough about Rio to even know if like Nile Rodgers was involved in it somehow. Cause it feels like a Nile Rodgers record, like those bands like Chic, but it's got great, all the little, I picture Duran Duran being like 50 guys with keyboards, and it's not. I mean, obviously Nick Rhodes played keyboards, right? And probably had them on every side of himself, how they did back in the day.
Oh,
and a computer monitor
keyboard
up there.
Cubicle.
Right. And a fucking computer monitor with a Commodore 64 on it or whatever. But there's great guitar parts on these records too. If you put the time in to listen to like Rio, these Duran Duran records, or any of those 80s kind of synth pop records, there's not a ton of guitar, right? It's not the same guitar you're going to get on a Blackfoot record or something, but it's in there and it's real. It's tasty and it accents keyboard parts. And so I picked Duran Duran Rio for my
Girls on Film on that record.
Yes.
Oh, dude.
That's a great tune too.
That song.
They have so many good songs.
Or is Girls on Film on the first one?
It's on the first record, I think. Yeah, because that was the video that came out. This'll date me a little bit. This is I remember the video for Girls on Film. They had an English cut of it. It was topless
is it
women.
On a boat?
Yeah.
No, it's at like a fashion show, I think. And it's topless girls, and they may wrestle and paint or something.
Yeah,
there's a beautiful video for a kid who was 12 or 13. I went to the video store and rented. Sony Music used to do these video 45s. They were a VHS tape with like the band's promo videos.
Yeah.
Cool.
And I rented that, and it had the uncut Girls on Film.
Oh.
So I spent some time with that. Volume down, probably. Okay. Moving on.
Hey, Scott, I love that you chose the Kooks, man. I saw the Kooks on their very, very first US tour.
Oh, really?
They played in Nashville. It was still the original 4-piece band with the blonde bass player, and his hair is like always in his face like this. And they played all the first album. They played this tiny little club called the Third and Lindsley in Nashville. This
Oh yeah,
probably 2005, 2006 or something.
Yeah, that's when Inside Out came
Yeah.
out, was 06.
And I think I saw their music video for She Moves in Her Own Way, like in Journeys in the mall. And it's like, wow, the guy kind of looks like Bob Dylan or something. And it turns out they're a really great band. And then went and saw them play. And I mean, I think it was sold out, but it was a really small club. And of course, I was just such a huge super fan. I ended up hanging out with them a little bit after the show, and and they're just and then singer like immediately left the stage, found the girl in the audience, and immediately hopped off stage and immediately went into the taxi with her. And so I kind of ended up meeting Hugh, and then the bass player at the time. They went to another bar that's no longer in Nashville, Gold Rush, and ended up meeting them there. And Hugh wasn't even 21 at the time. He had a fake ID.
Wow.
And then the bass player was kind of on this like sidebar thing, just kind of like sitting alone and just like, so English. I couldn't understand anything that he's singing. And then like 6 months later, he's out of the band.
Oh wow.
And so it's just like, dang, wow, yeah, that guy was kind of out there, but man, that show was so incredible. And they played in Nashville again, maybe 3 years ago or something, and they were great as well. But yeah, that first record I just like absolutely loved, and always kind of kept up with them and a bit. So that's great, man. I love that.
Yeah, Scott's a huge fan. So let's see where we're at. Your country record was Gilda Palace. What's your rap R&B record, Ricky?
Yeah.
I see it back there.
Yeah, dude.
It's a classic.
Yeah, old Snoop Dogg, Doggy Style. His first record, man.
It's a classic, man. It really is.
It's so musical. I mean, there's real, instruments, and I think they're probably sampling a bunch of P-Funk and stuff. But there's, pianos, and it's real. It's not just like all keyboards and stuff. It's like real band, and it's so like cinematic, and of course its delivery and everything. I don't listen to much hip hop. I need to like explore more. But this record, maybe 10 years ago or something, really, it just finally caught me, and I was like, I really need to learn how to play Gin and Juice or something.
Right.
How to play these songs.
Right.
And then digging in, further, it's like, wow, this is all so musical.
Yeah.
And it's not just like atonal, like mumble rap and like triplets or something.
Right.
It's real music, man.
He's a melodic dude.
Yeah, really always drawn to it.
Yeah, he's a melodic rapper. I think, and this is gonna sound stupid, but he's like he's the John Bonham of rap, and I mean that in the fact that he lays so far back.
Yes.
Yeah, he's still got a flow, and it's still with the beat, but he's so far back on it. He's like, like the Bonham of rap. He's not right on top of it. And that's what I think kind of became that West Coast delivery, right? That laid back. See, he says it in the song. It's there. But yeah, and who was just telling me? Maybe a buddy and I were talking, but Snoop Dogg is a phenomenon. I mean, this is a dude who went from a murder rap, literally on trial for open murder, gangbanger, LA. And now you see him everywhere. He's at the Olympics. He's, what I mean? He's at the Super Bowl. He's with, what's her noggin?
Yeah. He's calling boxing. And,
dude, he's like this institution. With Martha Stewart. Thank you. And I don't know if I remember. And I mean, I've been around for most of the rap game. I don't know if I remember another rapper who kind of had woven themselves into the fabric of all of the world like Snoop Dogg has. I mean, you got to give the guy credit, and he's got his hands in a million things. He's and he's still Snoop Dogg, and he's still I think he's I know he's a jazz guy. I know he's into jazz. I know he's got a depth of knowledge when it comes to jazz. And yeah, cool. That's a great album, man. That's a great album. And it's not like when I get in the car to, go to work tomorrow, I put on Snoop, but I also don't turn it off when it comes on, you know what I mean? All right. What's your R&B? Are you on your country? Yes, you're on your country, Scott.
Country record is it's a box set because it's the only thing I have by Wynn Stewart.
That I don't know anything.
He was influenced, like Buck Owens was influenced by Wynn Stewart.
Wow.
Cool.
Okay.
So if you think that kind of country, he wrote the song "It's Such a Pretty World Today."
Huh.
Look at the sunshine. He wrote that, but he just does he's an interpreter of songs. He doesn't write a lot of his songs, but it's just, he's so good. And there's a lot of instrumental stuff. He does familiar songs. Like he does Orange Blossom Special. He does that. He does instrumental versions of that. But guys like
is he a guitar player, Scott?
Yeah.
Like an electric
guitar?
Armed
Forces, and he stopped, I think, around the 70s. And just nobody really knows about him, but the guys who, like Buck Owens and all the old school guys, they all know Wynn Stewart.
Wow, that's amazing. I
got turned on to him by one of my uncles out west. So
cool.
Yeah, I'll have to dig into that.
I have like a 10 CD box set called oh God, I can't remember what it's called, but there's not a lot out there, but there is a box set.
10 CD box set.
Yeah.
I'll just get mine from Spotify. Thanks.
Yeah.
A 10 CD box set. Can you imagine pitching that right now? Hey, man, I got a 10 CD box set. Or I was telling my son the other day about do you guys remember when the Zeppelin box set came out? The one with the crop circles on it. It was a big fucking deal.
Oh, yeah.
Had Traveling Rivers.
Yes.
People were coming in the store I worked at. It was $99. It was $99 and people bought it. Like, I got to get that Zeppelin box set. $99 people paid for a record in whatever year it came out. That blows my mind. You can't get people. I cannot personally, John Merchant, cannot convince someone to go, hey, man, it's 99 cents. You think you could download that jam? Maybe you can I'll just stream it, man. I'll just stream it. Yeah. Killer. Moving on, my country pick. This record comes up for me all the time, because it contains two of my favorite country musicians. It's Waylon Jennings' Honky Tonk Heroes, written by Billy Joe Shaver.
Yep.
Every song on there's a Shaver tune. Scott, you saw me Friday night. I played Black Rose. I'm still playing those songs. I just think Billy, to me, and I am a country music fan. I mean, I am a country music fan. Old school country music. I don't know why I feel the need to clarify that, but I need to, so you guys, so nobody's confused, because I'm not, no offense to anybody, and I have friends who play in those bands, but I'm not a huge modern country fan. It doesn't do a bunch for me. Okay. I think, I forget who I was talking to one time, and they said that modern country music sounded like Doobie Brother records with pedal steel or something like that. It was Fleetwood Mac with fiddles or whatever it was, but it's more pop than country. Honky Tonk Heroes, though, is it's all Shaver, Billy Joe Shaver tunes, and he is, the lore is he threatened Waylon, like Waylon wouldn't take his meeting or something, and Billy Joe busted into the studio and made Waylon listen to him. And Waylon said something to the effect of, well, Hoss, I'll give you one song. He goes, and if that song's any good, I'll let you play another one. And it was I don't know, 2 hours of Billy Joe Shaver playing songs. By the time they were done, Waylon is going, I'm going to cut this album of your songs. It was Honky Tonk Heroes.
Wow, that's awesome.
And I was around the time that Eddie Shaver passed away. I was in Nashville. I was down there for a week playing. And I went into I forget, some store on Broadway, like a Boot Barn or something. And I looked up, and the video for George on a Fast Train was on the TV. And I actually sat down to watch it, and the dude working the Boot Barn came from around the counter and sat next to me. And he looked at me and he went, shame. And I'm like, yeah, it really is. And both of us knew that Eddie Shaver, this unknown guitar player, right, had passed away. And we both sat there, watched the video together, and he went back to the counter and I probably walked back out on the street. But I knew, we had this connection over Eddie Shaver, who, as a guitar player, is grossly underrated. Grossly underrated. Nobody ever talks about him. So, yeah. All right. So moving on. Ricky, we're on your NMD pick, right? Your quirky, weird, something you love that maybe not everyone's heard of.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. So I thought I'd pick another genre, and I did Kenny Burrell, Midnight Blue. He's a jazz guitar player. Really, really great. Peter Frampton. Kenny Burrell is definitely a big influence on Frampton, and there's a specific tune, I can't remember which one on here, that to my ear, Frampton references on the Live at the Fillmore Humble Pie. He does an extended intro to Walking on Gilded Splinters, and I feel like he took a lick, a whole basically song and kind of motif of this kind of E minor thing where it's kind of moving up to the B, C, C sharp, D, and but really cool with the kind of a F sharp in there all over the E minor chord, and just this really brooding, really cool, almost like Kashmir sort of style riff. Here to here. And then I don't know, yeah, Frampton is a fan of Kenny Burrell, and so I've been trying to get into jazz guitar thing a little bit more, just because, yeah, can play rock stuff and maybe do, blues is fun, and country's awesome and challenging as well. But in college, I did play some jazz band for fun, and but I got this record a couple of years ago, and man, it's great. And so he kind of gets in that kind of like Robin Ford, blending the genre of blues and then into jazz. It's definitely a jazz record, but it's just one of those classics, man. Yeah, it just always sounds good. It's kind of was like on the kind of the beatnik movement or something like the early 60s or something. So but it's just a cool, groovy, vibey little record, man.
Ricky, who are your, and I don't want to pin you down to anything, but like guitar wise, who are your guys or gals?
Well, I love a lot of the British blues. Clapton, speaking of box sets, I had the Clapton box set, the kind of one, the gray one with that multiple CDs, and and had the little booklet in there. And so I just wore that one out, and because I just couldn't get much information. But yeah, so I'd say, yeah, early Clapton, it's kind of the stuff up to Ocean Boulevard and before. And of course, Beatles are my favorite band, and then Stones. So yeah, George Harrison, Keith Richards, Ronnie Wood, Mick Taylor, Peter Green, and lately I've been getting into a lot more of Peter Frampton. Really love his style because he's like able to kind of blend some of the jazz licks in there, and but make it into a digestible, rock style. And but just man, all the kind of classic rock guys.
Yeah.
And then, but but also John Frusciante was, especially first getting into it. Metallica was like really big for me when I was just starting to get into music, and I still love Stone Temple Pilots. Are like one of my favorite bands, like of all time.
They're great.
Like one of my absolute favorites, and Jimmy Page, of course. And a couple months ago, in September of last year, I got to meet Jimmy Page.
Shut up!
With Grace. Which was a fun thing, and we actually got to play in front of him, and not only play in front of him, got to play a whole lot of Love in front of him.
Tell me this, what's that like? What is that like?
Digress there, but yes, I got to throw that one in there.
Yeah, you do. What's it like for a guitar player? I mean, playing in front of Jimmy Page. I mean, I can't imagine. Plus, he's from all accounts, he seems like an awful cool guy.
He was so cool, and he wanted to just talk music, and he gave me like a big, smiley thumbs up with it, like, like his eyes are closed, and it's like,
God,
but it was one of those things. It's like, dude, I prepared my whole life for this,
right.
All I Love was like maybe the first Zeppelin tune I learned or something, and definitely one of the first like solos. And so it's like, well, I really wanted to do it well, and then I also wanted to reference the 72 How the West was one.
I just told my son about that record.
Yeah, they do this like kind of chromatic, all right, no, it's a diminished walk down at the end of that. And so so Grace was invited to play at the British Embassy in Washington, D.C. for a Lifetime Achievement Award for Jimmy Page. And if you remember a couple years ago, there's like the Kennedy Center Awards for Led Zeppelin, where they had, big orchestra and, the
Heart played, I think, and
singers. Yeah. And so it was kind of like that, but on a much, much, much smaller scale. So there was, probably 6 tables there in this ballroom in the British Embassy. I mean, we had to give them our, passports because it's British territory, and
right.
they ran background checks on everybody. And sure enough, and funny enough, I had our normal backline. So when we backline, I'm like, well, Grace plays loud as hell, so give me a loud as hell amp. So I was like, yeah, give me a 59 Bassman reissue. These are so loud, dude. And then so we're playing that, and so I had to play that in this banquet hall room, and of course, they're like, it's too loud.
Yeah,
and but it's Led Zeppelin. So yeah, so it was just a dinner ceremony, and Jimmy gave a speech about his life, and then they kind of watched a little video of history of rock and roll, and basically Robert Johnson, and then Sister Rosetta Tharpe, and Yardbirds, and then Zeppelin, and beyond. And
wow.
So I, because it was a private event, and there was British, it was in Washington, D.C., but there's just I don't know, British royalty or something. I don't know,
right.
stirs and knights and things there. So we were kind of in our green room, and when we were ready to come out, hey, here we are.
Yeah.
But I stood in the hallway just foaming at the mouth, oh my God, dude,
Jimmy Page.
Yeah, man. Jimmy Page is here, and I can hear him and his classic tone of his voice. And and so yeah, we go out, we played 3 songs. We played 2 of Grace's songs. We did Something That I Want, and then we did Paris, and then it was Whole Lot of Love time. And so everyone's looking at me all right, dude, kick it off. And I'm like, look out, and Jimmy Page is right there, and I'm like, don't look at him, just look past him, look at the exit signs, just don't. And so I just kicked it off and tried to play it, like the record as much as possible. And Grace did a great job because she could just sing the hell out of that. And and we did the, spacey middle section. And then I even kind of had a wah. So I did the kind of cocked wah thing for the solo, just try to get a little bit of that. And then when the solo happened, I was like, and of course we're on this tiny stage because we're in this kind of small banquet room. And it's filled with tables, and so the stage is as small as possible. So I'm kind of playing like this, and up not to hit anybody. And Grace has her full Hammond B3, and just a little tiny part where she can kind of go in the front. I got the pedal board and trying not to trip over that, and but hey, look cool because Jimmy Page is there. So that put a little swagger on it when it came time for the solo. And then we did the diminished walk down thing at the end, and then the room kind of stood up and applauded, and he gave me one of these thumbs up, and
that's amazing, man.
And then we went back in our green room, and then Grace came out and kind of started talking to everybody, and then management brought us out, and of course I just beelined it right over to him, but of course the whole room is there to talk to him and to so I just kind of patiently waited, and sure it's okay to say this, hopefully I'll just put it out there. Grace eventually was was close enough because Jimmy's girlfriend Scarlett was there as well. And so Grace and Scarlett were talking, and Jimmy was kind of finishing up conversation, and then it just kind of came time where Grace and Jimmy kind of said hey Jimmy, good to see you, and this is my guitar player Ricky. He all his pot smoking in high school, he listened to all of your recordings and all your songs and all your bootlegs and everything.
Paige loved it.
Oh, great. Yeah. you blew my mind. Like, and so I just, I had so many questions and so many things I wanted to answer, but then I just kind of turned into, Wayne's World, seeing
right. I'm not worthy.
Cooper and I know how to party or what?
Yeah.
And
Jimmy fucking Page.
Yeah.
Man.
And so I just, I wanted him to drive the conversation. And so I just said, thank you for the music.
Yeah.
And, and thanks for being here. And, how are you? And he's like, good. And it's like, oh, the middle section of Whole Lot of Love and the Spacey section there. There's a bootleg recording where I, detuned the guitar, and then I was, messing with the delay pedal, and I was pulling the strings on the guitar and all that. And I'm just like, dude, tell me more. Tell me more.
Can we do this all night, sir?
And then, which is actually kind of funny because and so we seriously had like 60 seconds, and then we got some pictures, or he and I had about 60 seconds there. And then we got some photos, and then so I'm like, I'm good. So then I went to the kind of where the bar people were having dessert and champagne on the back deck, like when the gardens were. So I'm like, I'm good, dude. Like, all right, it's time to celebrate. Give me champagne. It's Jimmy Page. All right. So I got there, and I was kind of taking a video of like this, beautiful English garden. And then as I'm kind of do like a 360 around there, well, then out comes Jimmy and Scarlett, and it turns out another guy, just us. And I'm standing in the middle of the way of the walkway, and Jimmy Page and Scarlett are coming down, and I'm just like, should I get out of the way or what? So I kind of start talking to Scarlett a little bit, and there was another guy there. It was an architect, and he was showing Jimmy the grounds of the gardens. And so Jimmy did post on his Instagram about this event. And so there's a picture of Scarlett with this kind of black and white tile, and it's outside, and there's some steps, and it's kind of these big pillars and leading out. Well, then right out of the frame, I'm right there. Right out of the frame. So
how killer, dude.
Yeah, thanks for letting me tell that one.
That's amazing.
Totally blew my mind.
And awesome. I still say, like, if I love a guitar player, like I love a lot of unknown guitar players. Like I love Warner Hodges is like a hero. And I will say stuff like, my measuring stick for that is, if I'm trying to explain to someone what Warner Hodges means, I'm like, well, he's like a Jimmy Page to me. That's like my measuring stick, because, or else, if something cool happens, I will go, well, I wanted that thing to happen, but I also want to have, lunch with Jimmy Page. So you can say that. Well, you'll have to come up with something bigger now, I guess. I have to hang out with God.
Jason Ringenberg I got to play one show with Jason Ringenberg.
Yeah. Who's a legend, man.
He was amazing.
A legend. And I mean, I could go on and on about the Scorchers, how much that band means to me and meant to me. And I was young. I was I was still, junior high school age, I think. And watching MTV, which I watched as religiously as, I wonder if I watched anything else. Like if the TV was on, it was that back in the day, from a certain point in my life to, when I got out of high school or whatever.
Yeah.
But the video for Absolute Sweet Marie came on, Jason and the Scorchers. And I'm like, whoa. I mean, I couldn't tell if they were Buck Owens or if they were REM or what they were, I just went, I like this. And then sold, I'm a huge fan. So that's killer, man. You met Jimmy Page. Good Lord.
Yeah.
What do you, and the cool thing about Page is, if you watch videos of him, there's a video of him. He's listening to, Link Ray. He's got have you ever seen that video? The dude looks like he's 14 years old. He is that excited.
Yeah. And when same.
Yeah. And when I saw that video of him with the Link Ray record, and it's on, and Rumble is on, and he's just grooving, and he looks as youthful as anybody on the planet. And I could tell in that video, like, that cat is back there. He is back to when he heard that record the first time. And you could see it. And he was talking about music he grew up on and stuff. And he had that passion, which would be easy to lose when you're Jimmy Page, right? You're Jimmy Page.
He was just as excited, and talked about that. He even told Grace, like, oh, if I was still making records that would sound like your husband, Eric Valentine, that would sound like his records. And
jeez.
And one last kind of funny human story was in that same moment, so after we took our pictures, again, the whole room is trying to get his attention. And so I'm just standing there because I just don't want to leave. But I noticed that his foot was like under the rug, like the lip of the rug had kind of like gone up a little bit, and his boot was like kind of slightly under it. And I just kind of paused for a second, like, oh no, do I interrupt him and like tell him this? I try to get his attention. Yeah, I know he didn't wear earplugs back in the day, so
he's not gonna hear me.
And then as I'm thinking this, like, do I interrupt him and felt like maybe be rude? Somebody else came forward and like, hey, Jimmy, nice to meet you. Here, come shake my hand. And he takes a step forward and he starts to trip on the rug. And I'm standing right next to them. And so I'm so close. I actually kind of like grab underneath his like right arm and grab him by his chest as he's like falling forward. And our drummer was next to me, and she kind of grabbed him by his arm. And our other guitar player, India, was to his left, and she grabbed him by his arm. But I felt his like sternum and his like chest muscles. I was like, oh my gosh, this is like too close. And so he was, so he had this kind of like startled look on his face there for a second. That was just like, and he turned to me and to our drummer and said, thank you for catching me. I might have been going to meet the Grim Reaper.
Oh, man.
I was like, oh, dude, I stood in between Jimmy Page and the Grim Reaper. What? Oh my gosh.
That's resume worthy for sure.
What? Oh, yeah. I did not expect that. Yeah.
So, I mean, really, all your accomplishments as a musician and sideman and now save Jimmy Page's life. I mean, that's huge, man.
Maybe I saved his hip.
That's huge. Scott, what do you have for your NMD pick? And you have NMD as bad as anybody, so this should be
this. Well, my R&B pick was.
Oh yeah, we did.
Yeah,
it's a Laverne Baker and Irma Franklin record. It's called Brunswick Super Soul Sisters.
Huh.
Irma Franklin is the older sister of Aretha Franklin.
Oh wow.
She was the first person to record "Piece of My Heart."
Wow.
Cool. Wow.
And it's killer. They do.
Is it as good as the version on Sammy Hagar's "Standing Hampton"? Sorry.
It's actually my favorite version. I love Irma Franklin. I listen to her records more than I listen to Aretha.
Okay.
She's fantastic. She does a really good Doors cover on one of her records too. But they do like Son of a Preacher Man. They do Hold On, I'm Coming, the Sam and Dave song on this record.
Wow, cool.
It's so awesome. I don't know who the band is on there, but I was listening to it earlier today, and the drums on that record are killer. So, but yeah, it's called Brunswick Super Soul Sisters, Laverne Baker and Irma Franklin. And my NMD record is tied. It goes with Grace Potter. It's her husband, Eric Valentine's old band T-Ride.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, you're forever talking. Yeah.
It came out in I think 92.
Mm-hmm.
They had a song regionally here in Grand Rapids that played called Backdoor Romeo. And it's Eric Valentine, Dan Arley, and I can't remember who. Jeff Tyson on guitar, who I think lives in Europe now, like Czech Republic or Romania or something like that. Wow. But
that's awesome,
dude. That record shreds. It is a, I don't know how to describe it. I don't know if the drums on it are real or if it's a machine. I don't know if you've heard that record at all, Ricky.
I have. Yeah, Grace put it on in the bus one time. She's like, "Want to see some hilarious shit? Check out my husband." And it was like, "This is really cool." Like,
yeah, Zombies from Hell is great. Yeah. There's some kick ass stuff.
What's the genre, Scott?
It's
I mean, it's almost like a slightly industrial, but also
Yes.
maybe kind of Soundgarden-y sort of
Okay.
like stuff that
I think he was a
like
student.
highest, like
I think
sort
Jeff
of.
Tyson was a student of Satriani's.
Okay.
Yeah, really. Wow.
Okay.
But I think I saw him with Satriani. They opened.
Oh, wow. Cool.
Oh, that's cool.
But
Wow.
I love that record. They did like an EP or something that I don't know if it ever got released, but I got a bootleg copy of it somewhere. But yeah, that record is just, I had to bring it up since you were coming on today.
That's great, man.
With the
That's so
Grace
great.
Potter connection. Do you play on the studio records of hers, or are you just playing live right now?
Yeah, I've not had a chance to do any studio recording. I've just kind of been playing through the album cycle. But now that that was a lot of last year. And then now we're kind of gearing up. I think she's trying to get this old new T-Bone record out. But due to kind of contractual reasons, it's kind of best if it's just her playing on it. But she does have a ton of new material that's ready. And yeah, we're hoping to, as the schedule kind of picks up this year, and we'll have I don't think we'll be quite as busy as we were last year, as it's just, we did like close to 100 shows last year.
Wow.
So, and yeah, and it was kind of playing out the album cycle, and now we're kind of in between cycles, so it's time to kind of gear up with another thing. So yeah, I hope to get a chance to be in the studio with Eric. That would just be so fun. Just so intelligent, and he's just like Spock or something. He's just like, just knows everything, and just has such a creative approach, and can just create these, soundscape, song, moving audio pictures, song movies, like Songs for the Deaf, Queens of Stone Age. I mean, it's like a movie.
Right.
Yeah, and I've listened to a little bit of T-Ride. I need to like kind of dive in a little bit more, but seeing a little bit of it, I was like, whoa, dude. But it's funny, he has a guitar. I think it was in the music video that they made. But they had like taken razor blades and like scratched their names in it and such.
Yeah.
Like, Kramer or something, whatever, like pointy headstock guitar. And it's awesome. It's like, this thing rocks.
Yeah.
Well, I'm
Great,
gonna
man.
close
I'm gonna tell him that there's digging that.
Yeah, that'll be.
Oh, I love that record.
Huge.
Yeah.
I'm gonna close out my rap and my NMD. My rap record, I picked my R&B rap record. I picked Public Enemy's "Fear of a Black Planet." That was a big record for me. My kid's getting into it right now. It had Fight the Power on it, and 911 is a joke, and Polly Want a Cracker, and real social commentary. I'm trying to teach the kids at the school I work at that rap doesn't always have to be your gun and your dick. Like it can be, right? Public Enemy is a great example of that. And finally, my NMD pick. I don't know what happened to this band. They broke up for sure. They were, to me, one of the coolest bands in probably the last 10, 15 years. A band called The Thrills, So Much for the City.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard that record, Ricky?
I have not, but
oh, dude,
like something I'd be into.
You would love it.
Great.
It's the reason, and this is how good
Beach
I am.
Boys.
Now I'm tying this whole thing in. This is because I'm a professional podcaster. But no, the reason I mentioned that, Gilded Palace of Sin with the two girls, we were talking at the start of the show, or maybe even before we started the audio portion, but the two girls who were on the Thrills, the cover of their album, there's these two random girls with them. I knew they were fans of Graham, but the record sounds like, it's like Pet Sounds.
Yeah.
It's got some Pet Sounds in it. It's real West Coasty. They're from Ireland, I think.
Yes.
I don't know what happened to them, but there were videos of them in Europe playing these huge festivals. There's one of them playing with Ronnie Wood. Like he gets up and plays with them at some huge festival. And they were one of those bands that felt like they were on the cusp of something, but maybe were a little too, weird's not even the right word. It's not like they're weird. The songs are very pop structured. And like you said, Scott, Beach Boysy. And
yeah, I have, I think 3 records. That one, Bohemia, Let's Bottle Bohemia, Teenager.
Yes, I have those. That's the only 3 they had.
Okay.
And, I'll tell you what, Ricky, you would love this band. It'd be right up your alley.
Beatles,
you'll dig them.
Rolling Stones, Beach Boys. That's like my holy trinity.
It's all in there.
Right up my alley.
Yep, it's all in there. It's all in there for sure. So I actually have been, as we've been talking, I've been kind of making a list of stuff I'm gonna have to check out because of you guys. So, as we wrap this up, I should say, on behalf of all of our listeners, I thank you so much for doing this, man. I know you're just getting off the road. I know you're tired. I'm sure you're ready to be away from this for a while. So thank you for taking the time, man.
Oh,
and
it's an honor, man. I love podcasts. So,
and well, we are big fans. Like I said, the stuff you did with Tuck, of course, great. I just, the way you approach music is very, I can tell you have a lot of respect for music, for the thing, and I know that means a lot. I'm sure Grace Potter heard that. Anyone who hears you play. I have a ton of questions that are way even too guitar nerdy to get into here. But thank you for taking the time, man. Really,
absolutely, man. If we're ever coming through your area, please hit me up.
Yes,
you guys out.
We would love to visit and certainly treat you to dinner and drinks or something. We have a huge budget around here. You can tell by the fucking vent work up here behind in my studio here. No, thank you for doing it. And Scott, you usually leave us with some, and I will tell you this, Ricky, when we're done, I'll kill the meeting and we will just be done, buddy. So thank you so very much. And please stay in contact. Anything you want to pitch? Obviously you've talked about you're kind of still out with Grace. You guys hopefully getting studio. You got anything else going personally that's outside of Grace?
Yeah, I've started to gig a little bit more with a friend of mine, Paul McDonald. He'll be getting on the road quite a bit, kind of weekend warrior stuff. He's kind of got a Americana, but a little bit more rockin' songs, and I really enjoy that. And then and last year I went to Europe with a friend, Jossie, and he just had his album just come out, and I'm on probably 75% of that one. Gyasi. That's how you spell that one. And trying to work on some of my own music. I've got one in the can.
Cool.
And so just trying to get that as we have some more downtime this year, and trying to get some of my own tunes that are old riffs and things, just for fun. If I play them out live, great, but I really just kind of want to put art out there just for the hell of it. And just try to stay busy as much as I can with whomever I can. So yeah, always open. Thank you.
We will be watching for that, my brother. Thank you so very much. Scott, you got
Ricky,
any?
If you're into Kenny Burrell, check out the record. It's called Motor City Scene. It's all Detroit cats. It's Donald Byrd, Kenny Burrell. I don't know all the other guys off the top of my head, but it came out in like 58, I think. It is a killer jazz record. It's all Detroit guys.
Motor City
Scene.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, Scotty, what are you leaving us with today?
Fishing for a good time starts with throwing in your line.
All right. Thank you guys both so much. Ricky, thanks again, man.
Thanks, Ricky.
See you guys.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Scott.
See you.